Good day, buried in the middle of a long web page. Welcome to lesson headings 319. Now
Today's
imagine
topic
it's
is
styled
what is
using
an algorithm?
CSS. It's
The
one of the
headline
most
is in
important
bold red,
foundations
water
in our
rationing
unit on
alert,
algorithms
immediate
and problem
action
solving.
required.
Now,
A yellow
I know
box
that for many
contains key
politicians
times
and
and
affected
affected
neighborhoods,
neighborhoods.
words like algorithm
A
may
clearly
sound
visible
abstract
learn
or
more
overly
button links
technical.
to the full schedule.
But I promise that by
Ask
the end of
yourself,
this session, you'll understand
which version
exactly
helps
what an
citizens
algorithm
respond
is
quickly?
and why it matters so much
Which
in
version
both
looks
digital
like it came from a
technology and
responsible,
modern governance.
transparent government?
Let's start with a basic
Which
question.
version would you want your name
What
associated
is an
with?
algorithm?
At
That
its
is the
core,
impact of
an
CSS.
algorithm
is simply a set of instructions.
Conclusion and action
These
points.
instructions are designed to solve a
conclude,
problem or complete a task.
CSS is not about
Think of it
decoration.
like a recipe
It's
in a
about
cookbook.
communication, access,
A recipe
and
tells you
credibility.
what ingredients to use,
As a
how to
policymaker,
combine them,
you may not
and in
write
what
style
order.
code.
If you follow
But
it
you
correctly,
set the standards.
you get a cake, or maybe
You
a curry.
approve the budgets.
That's a real-life
You sign off
algorithm.
on digital policies.
In the world of computers,
And you are
the principle
ultimately
is the
responsible
same.
for whether citizens can
We
find,
give the computer a
read,
list of
and
logical
use the
steps,
information your
and it
government
follows
provides.
those steps quickly and precisely.
Here are your action points.
Here's a simple example.
Include design standards
Imagine
in
you're
procurement
writing
contracts.
instructions for your staff on how
Ask
to
for
handle
accessibility
incoming emails.
audits of all government websites.
First, if the email is from a
Insist on
constituent,
mobile-friendly,
forward it to your
readable,
assistant.
multilingual platforms.
Second, if the email is from
Support
the mayor's
staff
office,
training in
respond
inclusive
personally.
digital communication.
Third, if it's
In
spam,
a world where
delete
trusting
it.
government is shaped by
And
the
there you
citizen's
go.
online experience,
You've just
styling
written a
matters.
basic algorithm.
And so does your
Now let's
leadership
talk
in
about
making
why
it
this
accessible,
matters.
inclusive, and
Why are
human-centered.
algorithms important in politics,
In our next lesson,
governance,
we'll
or
explore
public
how websites
administration?
become interactive, using
Well,
JavaScript to
algorithms
allow
are behind
forms,
almost everything in
feedback,
our
and
digital
real-time
systems
engagement.
today.
They
Thank
help
you for your
filter
attention
emails
and for being
process
champions
online
of
digital
applications,
inclusion,
guide law enforcement, and even decide school placements and healthcare priorities. These processes might seem invisible, but algorithms are constantly working in the background to sort data, make decisions, and automate services. The key idea is this: algorithms are invisible, but powerful. They influence outcomes. They shape how citizens interact with public services. And sometimes, they enforce policy without any human involvement. As policymakers, we can no longer say, "I'm not technical." You don't have to write computer code, but you do need to understand what algorithms do, how they're created, and where they can go wrong. Let's take a look at a few everyday examples of algorithms. First, Google search. When you search for something, let's say public health subsidies, the results are not random. Google uses a complex algorithm to decide what results to show and in what order. It looks at your location, your search history, and the credibility of websites. Second, GPS navigation. When your phone suggests the fastest route from City Hall to a nearby school, it's using an algorithm. That algorithm considers distance, traffic, road closures, and past patterns to give you the best route. Third, online tax filing. When you submit your taxes online, an algorithm may check for mistakes, flag suspicious deductions, and even autofill certain fields for you. All of these algorithms are helpful. But they also raise serious questions. What happens if the data is incomplete? What if the algorithm reflects existing social biases? And what if citizens don't know how to appeal decisions made by a system? These aren't technical questions. These are policy questions. They're about accountability, fairness, and governance. Now I want to introduce two important terms: deterministic and probabilistic algorithms. A deterministic algorithm will always give the same result when given the same input. Think of a vending machine. If you press the same button, you always get the same snack. That's deterministic. A probabilistic algorithm includes randomness or uncertainty. For example, when Netflix recommends a movie, it's making an educated guess based on your past behavior. The suggestion might be different tomorrow, even if your viewing habits haven't changed. In public policy, deterministic algorithms are often used for rule-based systems, such as determining eligibility for benefits. Probabilistic algorithms are used for more complex predictions, like forecasting student dropouts. Understanding which type is being used helps us evaluate whether a system is predictable, transparent, and fair. Now let's talk about algorithmic bias and accountability. This is a major issue in both technology and policy. Algorithms are not neutral. They are created by humans, using human data, and they can reflect the assumptions, gaps, and inequalities of the real world. In the United Kingdom, for example, a major controversy happened in 2020 when exams were cancelled due to the pandemic. An algorithm was used to assign final grades to students. The algorithm downgraded many students from lower-income areas, leading to widespread protests and eventually a policy reversal. In the United States, predictive policing algorithms have been shown to disproportionately target communities of color. This happened because the system was trained on historical arrest data, which was already biased. In both cases, the algorithm was not designed to be harmful. But it was unexamined, unaudited, and not transparent. That's the danger. So what must politicians do? First, make sure public sector algorithms are transparent. Second, insist on clear appeal mechanisms. And third, make sure that humans still oversee decisions, especially in areas like healthcare, education, and legal status. Now you may be wondering, who writes these algorithms? Most of the time, they are created by software engineers and data scientists. In some cases, they are even generated by AI models themselves. But behind every algorithm are decisions. What is the goal of the algorithm? What data is it using? What happens when data is missing or flawed? These are not just technical decisions. These are policy design decisions. They affect real people and require democratic values like fairness, inclusion, and accountability. That's why movements for algorithmic transparency, open auditing, and ethical standards are growing worldwide. Politicians must engage in these conversations, not as coders, but as decision makers. So what is your role as a politician? You don't need to learn to program. But you do need to ask questions. What algorithms are being used in your agencies? Who created them? Are they fair? Are they tested on diverse populations? You should support legislation that demands transparency and fairness. You should explain clearly to the public how algorithmic systems are being used. You should ensure there are ways for people to challenge and appeal those decisions. And you should push for diversity among the teams who design and test these systems. You are the democratic safeguard between emerging technologies and the public interest. Let me end with one final analogy. Think of a traffic light. It follows a timed pattern. Red for 30 seconds. Green for 45. Then yellow. That sequence is programmed. It's tested. And it's trusted. Now imagine someone changes the pattern. They make it stay red longer in one neighborhood and green longer in another. Suddenly, this neutral system has political consequences. Digital algorithms work the same way. Their logic can help people. But it can also harm. We must stay vigilant. To conclude, an algorithm is not just a technical formula. It is a rule-based system, created by humans, that automates decisions. It can improve efficiency. It can reduce costs. But it can also create inequality, injustice, and confusion if it is not handled with care. As a politician, you're not expected to build these systems. But you are expected to understand them, to ask the right questions, and to protect the public interest. In the next lesson, we'll explore how algorithms sort and search through information. We'll look at how that shapes what people see, access, and experience in their digital lives. Thank you for your attention. And remember, if you can follow a recipe, you already understand the foundation of algorithms. Now it's time to apply that understanding to leadership and policy.